Of forgive.
So I guess it's connecting. Well, it should
Find
be. It's
out.
getting closer. It's getting closer. The power of forgiveness and business growth, or just the power of forgiveness. And I guess the first thing it says, open discussion. So have at it.
Are we open? Are we in?
Open.
Are we open? We're in.
All right. So
It's an open-ended conversation here about forgiveness. We're doing business forgiveness in actually happiness forgiveness today a little bit, and also forgiving yourself for not being perfect. But what we know, Scott, we were talking about your stuff last week about somebody you felt might have not been so ethically inclined to do the right thing in business, and you had maybe a little meeting with them.
oh,
And
yeah. So one thing to forgive, and then what does that forgiveness actually mean? Type thing. So this instance in particular, one of those things where, well, my history was one person wasn't getting any work, and they were looking for work, and I was like, I'll work with you, even though these other companies won't, right? So with my company, I like to build people up, and I do a lot of marketing, so that's something that like DJs may not understand or lower. If you're just entry level and you don't understand what the power of marketing will actually do for you, and then I would take in all these classes and learned how to do it right, not just marketing, but understanding the right language to put in forth and how to present information. So basically, this person came along and I promoted them really well. Obviously, because another company that wasn't looking at them before decided that they were going to use them. And then this company was a little bit controlling, and they were saying, "Well, you can't work for this guy since we brought you on here." So he ended up leaving me, well, basically high and dry. I had my wife on the phone going, "Hey, look, you have like 10 more shows. Can you at least fill these out?" And he did not. And 2 years have passed, and well, this person realized that the grass wasn't greener on the other side after 2 years and has come back or wants to apologize. And it's up to me to decipher whether or not this person honestly wants to apologize because it's closure to a situation, or if this person feels like they need to apologize in order to get more work. And an apology is just one of those steps along the way. And it's up to me to determine whether or not this person's actually changed or if they're just the same person, old tricks, because if they're willing to do anything to get more work, I mean, even apology, would be something to get more work, but do they really mean it? Now, I've had other people in the past who have done some things and I had to like, distance myself from them. And then when they have gone over that hurdle, right? Uh, I did bring someone back onto the team who will, well, we'll just say the difference between these two situations is that somebody maliciously screwed me over and the other person just made mistakes, right? Like I'm gonna just not do this gigs for you anymore because I have another opportunity versus like the other guy who messed up on a few things because well, communication wasn't clear or I've learned and now I'm better, right? I'm here to get more work. So again, in order for me to take someone back on my team, all the right things need to be said, right? Like in one case it was, in one case it felt like, oh, this is just something that I have to do in order to get more work. And no one's going to come out and just say that in particular. And it's up to you to determine if you know a lot about language patterns and how people frame the world, whether or not that's going to work for you, or if the person did those steps, okay, well, maybe you can hang out with us socially and then figure out whether or not it's going to work in business, right? And it's about forgiveness, right? Like, okay, well, the guy came up and he apologized, and I always told my team if the guy apologized, I would accept his apology. That doesn't mean, well, you're back in the company, which this person would have had a better in with the company if we didn't talk about getting in at all. Like, oh, I just came for closure. I don't need anything else. Here's where my life is, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's one situation of forgiveness. But yeah, that's just the general discussion. Again, I love tubbing these things into my super high powered coach from San Diego. He created his own AI engine. So this thing is ridiculously crazy. So it starts, before we go on these calls, it's like, oh, give me an outline. So I want you to start off with opening conversation and Why? Okay, here's a question, Jeff, for you. This says wants the opening discussion, and then it says why it's often misunderstood. Why is forgiveness misunderstood?
Well, one thing let's go with happiness. I'm going to pull away from business for a second because we're all wanting to be as happy as we can, I would assume. And I'm only assuming, and I'm saying if you don't want to be more happy, it's okay with me. I used to get mad. I used to get mad about somebody not wanting to be more happy, but that's not about me. It's about you. Let's just go with that right now. The forgiveness in happiness is in for general, you don't have to even like a person to forgive them because all you're holding in this grudge or whatever or this anguish in your body. Now, you it's not hurting the person you're angry at. They don't even care. They're probably not even thinking. This is one of the biggest, hardest statements somebody ever said to me. He says, I guess I'm living in your heart rent free or head rent free, meaning they're not thinking about it at all. So a lot of people that you probably have a grudge against, if you still have grudges, which I've really worked on having no, forgiving everybody for everything, and especially myself, forgiving myself for not being perfect, because I thought early on in my life that if I wasn't perfect, I wasn't good enough. So and then I finally found out there's only thing you can be perfect at is just being the best you each and every day. So let's go back to the forgiveness. It's not that you even have to like the person and you don't even have to deal with the person. It's just if you don't let go of that grudge, it's only burning in your heart. It's not burning in theirs. They probably don't even care. You might be thinking of them once a day and they thought about you 3 years ago just for about a minute. So you're not hurting anybody but yourself. And when you don't forgive yourself, you're hurting yourself big time because what we want for yourself to be is one of your best friends and give yourself compassion. So we
You
in
know the metaphor
business,
Michael Mandel uses for forgiveness? Being or holding grudges against somebody else?
which one is this?
He
This one,
says holding grudges against somebody else is like you drinking the poison and waiting for them to die.
right? It's a that the other thing is there's another metaphor about a snake bite, and it's that's venom inside of you. You're keeping them inside instead of just pushing it out. And that's basically you're killing yourself by keeping all this ickiness inside when you can just let it go because you can let it go. And now I'm a lot of times we say something on here that you can do. It's true that you can do, and we're not saying it's always easy. There's uh, life. We're not claiming, oh, tomorrow you can just forgive everybody and it's going to be an easy job. Now, I can tell you for years and years and years, I didn't want to give up that grudge. That was a part of me. I didn't want to forgive this person who I still have maybe I don't know all the way given up, but 90% of giving up the grudge against just the hate and terror I had been this, and this is a family member because I felt they wronged me so bad. But in the last few years, I've talked to this person and worked on getting the ickiness out of my heart, and it helped me. That's what we're doing with the happiness for that. But let's go back to business. Now, you can forgive people in business, and yet you never forget what they did. Now, the case with Scott a few weeks ago is basically he had somebody who kind of, in a sense, promised him stuff. He came in as a newbie and he or a not as strong as he was, and uh, he promoted him, got him getting big gigs, had 10, 15 gigs, and then he just canceled to work with this other person. So he jumped ship and kind of kicked him in the face. So in business, you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. Now, are you going to give him another chance? Uh, and what he was saying, when people come to you, are they really sincere what they're saying? Is it true or is it not true? Are they really here to say, I'm sorry? Are they really here just to manipulate you so you'll do whatever they want? And that's something you have to judge for yourself. Yet, the thing is, we never forget. I mean, we never forget when somebody screws us over. Now, we might forgive them and we might work with them again, but that never goes away. So you can forgive people, but you still keep the knowledge. It's sort of like everything. We take a with hypnosis and NLP, we help people get over trauma, yet we always let them understand the lesson that came with the trauma. So the same thing with this, even if you forgive people in business, you're going to have that little set over here to say, are they doing it again? And there, it's a safety mechanism for ourselves to understand. But I've forgiven some people in business, but not as many.
Well,
I
well, no,
Go
no,
ahead.
really. What's a good question to ask yourself? The question would be, are you clouding your judgment based on emotion, right? So you want to look at things with as least amount of emotion that you can have and make the most practical decision that's best for your growth. Now, the biggest thing with me is that of course, I can forgive somebody, and it's a mechanism for you to see if you've grown mentally or as a person, right? So if you can look at somebody and be like, well, I know what that person's about, but yet at the same time, I can forgive them because they're too stupid to know what they're doing, right? Or maybe they're just so malicious that like, oh, maybe they could be somebody else's problem and give somebody else a learning experience. And if you let anger cloud your judgment, then that's not going to help you out a whole lot. I mean, I see a lot of people that use emotion and they're really passionate about something and they really work towards a goal and they may get, kicked a little bit along the way. Yet at the same time, that stuff's still out there. That stuff is just supposed to take that information in and then understand that, well, that didn't work out that way. Maybe I could find better people or whatever the case may be for your given situation. Now, I used to look at the DJ world as like the Pirates of the Caribbean. They were always, fair weather people and they would just go with whoever had the boat, right? Like, oh, this person's no good and this person's no good. But then like the group majority of the people would just follow the whoever was in charge. So what that translates to into the entertainment world is that people will follow you if you have the money to give them for a gig. So at the same time, you have to weed through who's going to be loyal to you or who's in the game for the long run or who's just in it for the short run. Now, the one thing that really came to my mind when I was sitting down with this other person as he's apologizing, it turned into a lot of information was divulged or given to me, and I have to sit there to determine whether or not what the case may be. So basically, the person left, worked for another talent agency, still had a day job, went to the narcissist business owner and said, "Hey, look, I'm looking to get rid of my day job. Do you have enough work for me?" And of course, the narcissist will tell you whatever they want to tell you in order to get you under their grasp. It's kind of like what's that flower where it looks really pretty and then you get in there and then it sucks you in. Yeah, so once you quit your day job, now I have all the power over you.
Yeah,
There's
all
nothing you
the
can do.
power.
So now you got to do what I say. So that once you didn't have that safety net to fall back on, it turned into, well, now I gotta get out of here because this person's like really, putting it to me, and what can I do? So you start looking for other opportunities to go somewhere else. And that's basically what happened. It wasn't like this person apologized before that happened. The guy waited till this to happen and then, oh yeah, you were right the whole time. I'm like, well, sit there and told you so. What is that going to do, right? Like now you're in this situation. Did you really learn from that experience, or are you going to do it again? And this person wanted to come in and work in the office, and I asked a few questions, and as the person was answering me, it was really clear to me that this person would paint the reality and whatever put him in the best light instead of like, owning up to a few things. So if you screwed me before and now I gave you access to the whole office, how could you screw me now? That doesn't seem like a good combination for me. Not that because once trust is broken, like how long would it take to get trust back if it ever comes back? Like a lot of actions would have to, take place. And while you can forgive somebody for making a mistake and being honest about it and sitting down with you and having a drink, I mean, sure. Um, where does it go from there? That kind of like depends. Like, I also have a pretty strong knit team, and everybody. would have to, sign off on it too, because I wouldn't want to do something to break one of my other team's trust, because we kind of help each other out all the time. And so it's also another thing to look at too when doing something like that. But again, forgiveness, yes. Okay, you admit you messed up. Okay, well, did you learn? And then you can, have more experiences as you go from there.
Well, in business, I want to throw another
Oh,
thing.
business, yeah, right.
Let's go back to business for a second. Now, he just said just a little bit earlier that the circumstances. Now, if someone doesn't know what they don't know and they do something stupid or do something that's off etiquette or what ethics or whatever, and they don't know they're doing something wrong, you can give them a break right there because they don't know what they don't know. And when they learn it and they do it again or again and again, then they're doing it with intent. Now, not meaning maybe they're not doing it intent to harm, but they're doing it with an educated knowledge that it's not the right thing to do. Now, so when you are taking in that note of did somebody wrong you in business and did they wrong you intently? Now, if they wronged you because they're stupid or unknowledgeable in a fact that that's not the right thing to do, you can give them more of a break. And yet you still go, this is the way it is, don't do it again. And if they do it again with that knowledge, then you know it's in with intent. Or you don't know 100%, but yet usually when somebody's really told something and said this is not the way to do this and they do it anyway, they don't
Yeah.
respect it. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean they're doing it and again intent to harm you, but that you're not a, you're not important in their picture because uh, especially for narcissists, if we would hit a lot of narcissists because it doesn't matter to a narcissist who he has to step on, do whatever, because it's not about anybody else. It's only about me. I'm doing this. I'm not, it's not my problem. You're so stupid. And then when they claim that everybody else is stupid and they're the only smart person in the world, but they get to do whatever they want, be aware of that because you'll find yourself sometimes in like we've found in several places throughout our lives, somebody just not really caring about you, just caring about themselves and doing whatever's right for them and not making a win situation. But back to the forgiveness, I think it, and you
Well,
can
the first
forgive
step is
anyway.
admitting you did something wrong.
Well, the first step is no, and because they may never, ever, ever admit they're wrong. The first for us to forgive someone, we have to figure out is it worth to keep a grudge, which we know any grudge inside it's hurting us and it's not hurting the other person. In business, the wise decision: do you keep a grudge? You keep the knowledge, and then you go from there. I think in if somebody screwed you before in business, potentially they can do it again because they did it once. Now, if they screwed you again when they didn't have the knowledge that it was really screwing you and they would have never done that before, you can forgive that really kind of quick because a lot of people, newbies, don't know all the they don't know they're not supposed to pass out their cards at your event until somebody tells them. They don't know that they can't directly go up to the client and, or even,
Yeah, where's
or,
my check? Like, wait a minute. Talk to your office.
or any of that. There's being stupid or complaining to the client
Yeah.
about your boss. Yes, you should complain sometimes, but not to the client. You should complain to your boss and say, "Hey, what's up with this?" But anyway, there's rules in every company, and you know, Scott's
Well,
got a whole code of conduct that you're supposed to do. And if you go against that, do you forgive the person, even though he's got the whole thing? You got to each individually thing. You have to decide is it worth it or not. But in life for a happiness code, you would want to work on really forgiving yourself and everyone else and understanding you don't have to like the person you forgive. You don't even
yeah.
have to wish them well or anything. All you have to do is forgive them to get the poison out of your body to be a little bit more happy. Go
And
ahead.
yeah, the fun thing with that, you'll probably go through tons of videos that talk about narcissism, and that's just how they see the world, right? So whether or not you forgive them or not, you can still heal and grow, right? So I'm kind of ran into some new characters in my life that are similar to what I had to deal with before. And I can see my own personal growth that I don't get mad about it. I just understand it is what it is. And I have more knowledge about that type of personality. So, again, for those of you that may not know, narcissists, if you go against them, then you end up becoming the enemy. So, what is the best way to go about it? You just kind of like do whatever's on the paperwork and do it. And then whatever the other person says, you don't have to take it as ownership, right? Somebody,
I was going to say that right offhand.
yeah,
Let's just go that for 1 second
because
right
they
there.
place frames on you.
Right. Or again, the whatever the person says in front of you to you is about them. How you receive it and take it to yourself is about you. So when people say something stupid or say anything, you have the ability or the right to let that just go either way, like a water off a duck's
Well,
back, or you can take it personally. So see, if we
just
could just
remember,
not take everything personally and throw that away and take it as knowledge. So because it's just feedback. If you go to NLP, it's feedback. So if we get the feedback, then we figure out what it means to us and just let it go. Go ahead.
well, no, one important thing that I'd like to note that if you, okay, somebody says something to you and then you defend it, that means you're claiming some sort of ownership of it. If there was if there was nothing to defend, then you wouldn't have to say anything. So somebody can call you something and you can just say, "Well, sorry you feel that way." Like, but if you go, "I'm not this," and then start labeling all these different cases and stuff, like that means you claim some sort of ownership of it.
Right. It's
Like, what are you
basically,
defending? Like,
and and truthfully, Scott, that's a little bit hard not to, a little bit. When somebody says something about you, we don't
I
have to
know it's
take it
hard.
personally, but
I didn't
yeah,
say it
it
was
can
easy.
be. Yeah, well, right. It can be like, are we really that way? And it's okay to assess you for self. Here's the thing: you can assess that, and you can say to yourself, "No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true." And you can just go, "Well, that's your opinion." Everybody's got one, so it doesn't mean
But
it's
that's
right.
the thing with the narcissist. When they say these things, that's what your mind focuses on, and then you'll find, um, cases where that may have been the case. Well, if you just don't explain, if you just don't defend it, right? Like then it just goes away. Yet you are what you focused on, and that's the scary thing about gaslighting and narcissists is that they'll get you to focus on things that don't even freaking matter, but they're trying to, put a leash on you and get you to go wherever you want to go, or wherever they want you to
Why
go.
they want you to go.
Yeah, where they want you to go. So it's super important not to let that get to you, like because it will. Even if you're defending it, it's like, what are you defending? Like, because that's what you're focused on. So if you end up in a situation like that, realize the toxicity of it and just get out of it. Like, because if you can learn anything from me, you're not going to get somebody else to change their mind like that. Like, especially somebody who's been a narcissist and they can, get this success and get a huge business because they're just really good at that. And you're not going to be able to convince them that's not a good way to go when they have a powerful business or a nice car or lots of money. That's what they're going to use to say, well, you should be like me then. You know, or they'll say what I've heard a million times from this guy. Well, when I was in your situation, this is what I do, and you should take what I do as the best way to go. Because when I was there once, and then you just be sitting there just chasing your tail the whole time, and that's a closed loop. So not everybody grows the same way, and then being able to forgive that person because they don't know any better. If you want to do some more research on what a narcissist is or how it's developed, is because they have some sort of too much attention from their parents or not any attention from their parents, and you could just forgive them for that life that they had. And of course, you can stay in that relationship if it's you're comfortable with it. Yet, if you want to become more independent and make your own way in the world, just realize uh, if you don't make up your mind, a narcissist will make it up for you.
There's also a thing, stand for something or
Fall for everything. Yeah.
fall for everything. The other thing, again, a little off subject today, but what really does matter at the end is that you become the person you want to be and you have the confidence in yourself. So, like I think talked a few weeks ago about finding your values and building up those values so you have strength about yourself. But also, a day is forgiveness. And even if you're never going to be perfect. Even wherever you're at right now, forgive yourself for not being somewhere else because there's no way you can be anywhere else than where you're at now. That's just truth. These are all the decisions you ever made and everything that ever happened to you, everything, because it's not what happens to us, it's how we deal with it. You made a decision all the way up to here. So today you can make a decision to forgive yourself for not being perfect and also forgive everybody else around you for not being perfect. Not and stop taking things personally when they're not about you, whatever they're saying. And then in business, if you when you forgive in business, you don't have to forgive without knowledge. If you forgive somebody for making a mistake because they didn't know, then I would say perfectly okay. Yet when you teach them and they know and they do it again, then you know it's not knowledge. It's that they're doing it with intent. And I would say most of the time, I wouldn't work with most people who intently try to hurt me or any of my entertainers or even clients. So to forgive and to forgive really for me in business is for somebody to actually have remorse, not somebody who lies about remorse or I'm apologizing because I have to. I want someone to apologize because they want to. And
Well,
it doesn't mean I'm going to work with them again at all. It just means that it just makes them a better person, I believe. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just about to say here's some things to consider if you were going to bring somebody back into the team. Well, you'd want to set clear expectations. If you do X, Y, and Z, this is going to happen. The one that I did bring on back onto my team, I wouldn't bring him back on unless we did a sit down. And that was one of the books, Michael Franchise. I don't know if you guys heard of him, but he's the only guy or the richest guy to make it out of the mob and not die. And he's a public speaker for that. And I'm fascinated with mob life. But I read both of his books. Make you an offer you can't refuse and mob up your business. And within mob up your business, he talks about how the mafia ran because they made million like Michael Franchise made $12 million a week for 10 years plus. So he said it was super important to sit down with everybody. Uh, so that everybody had a clear understanding, and it's better than being on the phone. So when anybody wants to have a sit down, I'm like, yes, I need to make that happen. Or you're not going to be allowed to get in the team. I need to talk to you face to face and make sure that we have a clear understanding and set clear expectations. Also, accountability measures, right? So if this happens, this is going to happen. And at the same time, you want to make sure to protect yourself while giving somebody a second chance to make sure that they're up and running again, right? So when moving forward, clear boundaries, this is what's happening, and then implementing a better screening process to make sure they really do mean what they're saying and not that it's like a last resort type thing. And it's going to take a second to build up some more trust because of what had happened. Again, Jeff was saying you're not going to forget, even though that you forgive, and those tendencies still were in the person, and yet we all hope they have grown up and moved on. Again, within business, clear documentation and agreements so that there's no second guessing and everything's very clear. And communication strategies, like I was mentioning, with the sit downs. Again, Michael Franchise was super, so said that was super important, very high, like it was every other chapter. Gotta have a sit down, gotta have a sit down, gotta have a sit down. And they did it, I think they did it like, every day, like, or 3 or 4 times a week. They did sit downs with their whole team, like little bar meetings here and there. It didn't have to be a long sit down, but things needed to be discussed regularly, and that's something I implement as much as I can. Like I have weekly meetings with the that I call the social call. Anybody that wants to come can come, and it's either networking or team building or just going over whatever the news is for the week. So I, I I make sure those happen. Well, a little less around the holidays because everybody's been busy, but we're gonna pick those back up. And yeah. So just so everybody's on the same page and we all understand and can move forward. And honestly, it's really it's built a pretty good relationship between one of my friends and slash DJs, right? So it's worked out pretty good.
I would like to say this though, if we hit on a nerve today that forgiveness of anything, I would encourage you to go look in the mirror and talk to yourself about it and figure out,
Oh, parts of
if
negotiation.
yeah, the part,
to,
yeah, to
explain
negotiate with
parts of
your,
since we're
yeah.
here, parts of
Well, this
negotiation.
right. So just a little thing you can do is go ask yourself, what is it doing? What benefit are you getting from not, you know, uh, forgiving yourself or anyone else? What is that doing for you? And I'm hoping that you'll get to the point to say, it's okay. I don't like the person, but I'm just going to forgive him to get the poison out. The hardness, the hardness you can
Wow.
just
The caveat to that is that you
uh,
can use that energy to push forward for something that you're moving away from.
yeah, you could go, well, I'm not going to be that. And then again, I would still say what I threw in today is something we talked about a few weeks ago is find your values and live in those as best you can. And when you live in your values the best you can, you'll find you get more self-worth. And when you have more self-worth, you can stand up to the bullies a lot easier.
Yes, setting clear boundaries. Again, um, we'll just say for this case scenario, a narcissist will call them an alpha, and anybody that they keep around them, they want to keep betas around them because they just want to boss people around and have them do whatever they say and be at their mercy. That's kind of like how the model works. Yet with abundance and also narcissists use scarcity mindset. So to understand those things as deeply as you can, and then abundance mindset works for win-win situations, right? So that everybody wins and not just you know someone telling you what to do and you do it and it works out best for me. So basically, keep that stuff and not keep that stuff in mind, and that's like one of the craziest things or big knowledge that I learned when working with hypnosis. If someone's already going a certain way, you just keep with the flow. And then you weed out people that may not work for your system, whatever that means, right? So if it works out both ways, well, a person A is looking to do this, and that's what you're looking to do, that works out best. But if somebody B comes along and they say they're looking to do that, but that's not what they mean, it's up to you to determine whether or not that works for you or not. Actions speak louder than words, that kind of thing. But anyway, I think that's pretty much all we got for today. Anything in summary?
Again, really for your happiness, going back to the happiness instead of just the work, is being able to forgive yourself. The biggest thing I ever did for myself that gave me the most happiness that I ever had is understanding that I you can't be perfect. The only thing you might be able to claim is you can be the perfect you every day. And we go over that a little bit, but basically, if you be the best you every day, then you never have to live in regret because there's nothing more than the best thing you can do. And you just keep doing that every day. And then you learn from anything that's not perfect. And then you work on it to get better. But forgiving yourself is where I'd start, and then going around and saying, what really is it benefiting me not to forgive this person? It took me years to forgive my brother, and I mean, it just took some of the icky out of me, and so I think it does help.
All right.
That's personally too. So go ahead.
Well, there you go, guys. Now remember, when making business decisions and forgiving somebody, you don't have to forget everything that they did. And if it works out, it works out. I mean, not everything's monetarily. Like it could be uh, whether or not like a bad apple spoils the orchard. Take care of your team and make sure everything works out best for you, whatever that may be.